I take this opportunity to congratulate Singapore on presenting its VNR. The need to invest in human capital as the primary requirement for a nation's progression is clearly evident from Singapore's development narrative. We are particularly appreciative of Singapore's willingness to share the dividends and experiences, lessons learned of its phenomenal economic growth with other countries, including Bhutan. In particular, assistance provided under the Singapore Cooperation Program has benefited many countries around the world. Several countries, including Bhutan, is slated for graduation in the next few years or so. A primary concern we, as a graduating country, have is how we can sustain our graduation from the LDC category. During this HLPF, we have been advocating for enhanced support measures for transitioning countries. In this regard, what kind of support can Singapore extend to transitioning countries? Thank you.
I thank the representative of Bhutan for her intervention, and I now give the floor to the representative of Egypt.
Thank you very much. I would like first to congratulate Singapore for the presentation. And my question is that Singapore is a small country with limited natural resources and land. We are very interested to know how did Singapore overcome those constraints to achieve a balance of economic growth and ensure the well-being of its people and environment. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Egypt for his intervention, and I now invite the representative of Colombia to take the floor.
Sí, muchas gracias, señora Presidente, y gracias al distinguido señor Ministro y al equipo del Gobierno de Singapur por la presentación de su informe nacional voluntario, en especial su compromiso con el ODS 15 y la declaración del año 2018 como año de la acción climática. Hemos escuchado con atención la sección relacionada con el medio ambiente y sus iniciativas por las que los felicitamos. En ese sentido, y teniendo en cuenta que para Colombia el cambio climático es una prioridad, dada su condición de país megadiverso, altamente vulnerable a este fenómeno, y que recientemente ratificó el Acuerdo de París, permítame solicitarles mayores detalles sobre cómo ha sido el desarrollo de esta iniciativa y las lecciones aprendidas de este año de la acción climática en Singapur. Muchas gracias, señora Presidenta.
I thank the representative of Colombia for his intervention, and I now give the floor to the representative of Thailand.
Thank you, Madam President. Thailand would like to congratulate Singapore for the presentation of Singapore's VNR. As a very successful small island state, Singapore's SDGs experience, such as on climate and water, can serve as role models for other countries to follow in the implementation of the SDGs. Thailand also commends Singapore for the strong leadership as the current ASEAN chair. As Thailand will be next ASEAN chair in 2019, we will strive to carry on your good work in the region, working particularly on the complementarities between the 2030 Agenda and the ASEAN Vision 2025. As we have heard from the presentation, Singapore has done well for itself on SDG 6 on water. My question is, what are some of the efforts that Singapore has undertaken to share this knowledge and expertise with other countries? Thank you.
I thank the representative of Thailand for his intervention, and I now invite the representative of Slovakia to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are also congratulating Singapore on its achievements, and we particularly appreciate the comments of Minister with respect to the fulfillment of the SDG number 17. And our question reads as follows. Meaningful and effective stakeholder engagement is a key factor for successful SDG implementation. Could you then elaborate a bit in detail on Singapore's shareholder engagement strategy? Thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovakia for her statement, her question, and I now invite the representative of Vietnam.
Vietnam would like to congratulate Singapore on achievements in the implementation of SDGs. The presentation is very informative and comprehensive. From your progress tracker, we could see that the achievements of targets under SDG 6 are outstanding. Your integrated closed-loop approach to water management is a valuable experience for other countries in solving water challenges. Does Singapore have cooperation activities with other countries in this regard? To conclude, Vietnam wishes Singapore great success in implementing SDG for a better life of people. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Vietnam for her intervention, and I now invite the representative of Jamaica to take the floor.
Thank you. Congratulate the government and people of Singapore for the tremendous progress over a relatively short time with such a limited resource base. And of course, for the willingness to share the experiences through the Singapore Cooperation Program, which has benefited many countries, including Jamaica. And we'd like to ask, how does climate change affect Singapore's water strategy, which was elaborated? And how is it addressing the challenge with the projections going forward in water, in terms of the water strategy? And also, what specific actions are being taken by the government to prepare the public service? We speak of public service excellence in Singapore. What strategies are being taken to prepare the public service for implementation of the SDGs? Thank you.
Thank the representative of Jamaica for his intervention, and I now invite the representative of Sierra Leone.
I would like to thank the delegation from Singapore for their fantastic presentation made today, and particularly a very good congratulatory message from Sierra Leone. I'm particularly interested in the development trend since 1963, as highlighted in his presentation. Through time, they have developed sustainable development over time, even before it started in 1992. SDG 6 is very impressive, particularly the use of water resources as a potable water, and particularly wastewater. Very few people are using wastewater as a drinking water or potable water, which they call new water. I would like to congratulate them for this new innovation, and I will be very interested in following their trend. On education, they have done very well, and I'm really happy to be here today to thank them for achieving sustainable development goals through education. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Sierra Leone for his statement, and we now have time for just one more question, and we invite the other stakeholder group on aging to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As a young person from Singapore, I'm grateful for the opportunity to present. Singapore is proud of its economic progress, its innovations, and its willingness to provide assistance in many areas. It is a global beacon, yet there are also areas for improvement, particularly with regard to loosening some rigidity and to assuring political flexibility. The VNR submitted is forward-looking and speaks of collaborations for development. It specifically says that Singapore has benefited and continues to benefit from the generous sharing by others of their own development experiences. Singapore is thus committed to strengthening the global partnership for sustainable development, including through their technical assistance initiatives. We welcome that Singapore puts response to aging, to older persons, and persons with disabilities as central to SDG implementation. This is an example to others, as inadequate visibility has been given to older persons and those with disabilities in most national implementation plans. Given Singapore's progress and demonstrable commitment to older persons, we ask, will Singapore make a commitment of 2 million Singapore dollars each year to demonstrate global leadership for practical implementation of SDG 11 on a long-term basis of the goals and targets for older persons and persons with disabilities in cities? At home, participation, accountability, and people-centered inclusive planning are key to Goal 11 success for all citizens of Singapore. Singaporeans are committed to a more flexible, political, and democratic society. They call for an open and inclusive environment. How will Singapore ensure that citizens and their organizations are able to meaningfully participate without harassment to assure inclusive urbanization for all and engage in a long-term way in planning for aspects of city life? Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Group on Aging for her intervention. And I now invite His Excellency Masagos Zulkifli to briefly respond to the many questions posed to him from the floor. Minister, I'm going to ask you to try to limit it to about 5 minutes.
I'll try my best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank all the countries that's made intervention, particularly Colombia, Jamaica, Egypt, Sierra Leone, Slovakia, Bhutan, Thailand, and Vietnam. Also from the Group for Aging. It's important for us to also set the context that as much as we have done well in many areas, we also recognize there are many, many areas. If you look in our report, that we are still tracking progress and making progress and still need to learn from each other how we can achieve what others have done better. On the stakeholders' engagement from Slovakia's question, it goes to the heart of the SDG Global Partnership. We believe in multi-stakeholder approach to implementing all the SDGs. In Singapore, we have a feedback unit called REACH, where for particular issues, we set out to the public, and people and the public can deposit their opinions as well as their inputs to any policies for which we call for their inputs. And for example, we have consulted the public and the businesses very, very extensively before we implemented the carbon pricing bill. We also work closely with stakeholders in all sectors to encourage ground-up action. As an example, I mentioned just now, 2018 Year of Climate Action, which Colombia asked for an update, is something that we are very happy to do and something new that we are doing in putting ourselves together with our stakeholders to co-create solutions. And that also is in response to the intervention by the Group for Aging. We want in future to co-create with our citizens. And I think when in the past, when it is easier or in fact more expedient to just make decisions for everyone to follow, in future, all of us must include our citizens, particularly our youth, to co-create solutions with the government so that what we do together will certainly be better than what we do on our own. As part of Singapore's VNR, as I mentioned just now, we have just one example. We have put up the Singapore Youth Video Competition, and the winners are up together with us on stage today. And I hope delegates will go to our booth just now to watch that video and see how much effort they put in because they believe in the SDGs. And Egypt has also asked about how we balance trade-off. And clearly, Singapore is an island without resources. But what we do from the beginning is to ensure that in pursuing development, we do not sacrifice the environment. And that's from the word go. And because we have done that well, for the longest time, we do not have to fix problems that come up or require very expensive solutions to fix. And I think this is very important. Let me just give one example, Madam Chair. In making sure that our sewage is treated well from the very beginning was why we could do new water cheaply. Because we only had to put one more process to clean the water for hygienic drinking purposes. You will see this bottle of water that we are putting up in our exhibition booth, and I don't have to dare you to drink because I'm going to drink it myself. Here you go. Cheers. And this is going to be a very important solution for many of us because as we go into climate change, weather patterns are not going to be something we can rely on to give us water from the sky or even water from the river. And as Sierra Leone has mentioned, this is going to be an important solution for us to do good for our community by keeping water that we receive within our borders and reuse it again and again. Those who are engineers around us here will know that if you can retrieve 50% of what you use and put it back into the cycle system, you double your water supply. If you can retrieve 3/4 of it and put back into your water system in a closed loop again and again, you quadruple your water supply. And this is going to be important as we go forward, as we meet climate change in future. Finally, a question from Vietnam, how we share our responses. We are going to work harder to South-South cooperation, And through the Singapore Cooperation Program, we have been hosting, like I said, many delegates. And in response to a question from Bhutan, as you graduate, the SCP itself is not a one training program. It's a huge program with a lot of areas of, and also graduation from one level, from basic all the way to advanced, for us to train as many of our friends as possible. And I hope that this is a way for our delegates here to know that Singapore stands ready to work with every country here in uplifting our fellow citizens to achieve our dream and our goal of achieving the SDG 2030 together. Thank you.